Taste the Daily.
Holidays nale, adi namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
హే హాయ్ గైస్, వెల్కమ్ టు గలాటా తెలుగు. ఇప్పుడే మేము డైరెక్టర్ అనీష్ కురువిలా గారితో ఒక లాంగిష్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ షూట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. అండ్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ అయిపోయాక ఆయన సినిమాటోగ్రఫర్, ప్రొడక్షన్ డిజైనర్ అండ్ ఎడిటర్స్తో మిస్టరీ ఆఫ్ మోక్ష ఐలాండ్ టీమ్తో కూడా ఒక సెగ్మెంట్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఈ వీడియోలో బేసికలీ 2 సెగ్మెంట్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఫస్ట్ 1 hour సోలో ఇంటర్వ్యూ విత్ అనీష్ గారు అండ్ దెన్ లాస్ట్లో విత్ ద టీమ్. అది ముందే చెప్పేద్దామని. సో 2 segments in same video. Thank you. Hope you enjoy it. Anish garu, hi.
Hi.
Welcome
Please
to
call me
Galatta.
Anish. Yeah.
Okay, great. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
First ekkadunamo cheppeseyandi.
So we are at this place called Boxcar Caravan / Mirage. It's our post-production space run by a group of filmmakers here. Umair, Faiz, Pranav, Naveen, Srikant. So they're all part of this enterprise. This is where all our post-production activity happens. The edit, the grade. Basically, this is where the magic happens, basically.
Lovely. When did you fall in love with the magic of filmmaking?
When I fell in love with the magic, I think it was a journey for me. I think I was lucky that I went to a school that really pushed for dramatics, and I was very involved with theatre in school, right from the 4th grade. So from the 4th grade, I think until the 10th grade, theatre activity in school was strong, with plays in Ravindra Bharati and stuff like that. But then, like every kid, post school, I thought medicine was my space, and then I thought I was pretty serious about civil services. So I began studying BA Political Science, Economics in
Nizam College.
Nizam College. And I think it's that year in Nizam College which made me feel that, maybe civil services is not my calling. What do I really want to do? So I kind of what came back to me was all those plays that I did in school. Something about, I grew up in a household, a very sort of, I'm a Malayali who grew up in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Malayalam films, Hindi films, discovered Telugu films on, video cassettes, and then later in cinema, and of course, a bunch of Hollywood films. So when I went to college, it was an opportunity for me to kind of go back to the things I loved. I just began being obsessed for the next 2 years of college in cinema. My college was in Bashir Bagh, and it is the center of, Santosh, Sapna, Ramakrishna, Lighthouse, Surya.
Lighthouse, Surya will leave kada ippudu?
Ippudu levu, but they were on that Bashir Bagh road. So my mornings and like my routine for the next 2 years of college was going and watching a morning show, catching a matinee show, then dropping by the college, maybe attend a class or see friends and go back. So by the time I finished with college, I knew this is the industry I wanted to be in. I was so totally sure about it. And I was a little skeptical about how to go about it. Like any kid from a middle class background who grows up in Hyderabad in the late 90s, your options of, how do you tell your parents that you're interested in filmmaking? So I remember getting forms for, FTII and even NSD, thinking I might apply. Dhairyam lekunde. But as a matter of chance or happening or whatever, I started working as a production assistant with a filmmaker called Manishankar in 97, while I was still studying in college during the last semester. So I didn't tell my folks that I was working in the film industry. And I started off working in music videos as an assistant director. So it kind of started off like that in 97, last year of college. Just got into the industry. And it's been 27 years.
Wow.
Now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember the day you met Sekhar Kammula?
That was about 2 or 3 years later. So I had been aiding with Manish Shankar, then later with Nagesh Kukunur.
Yeah.
After Hyderabad Blues, I worked with him on Rockford. And 98, late 98, early 99, I think was when I met Sekhar. Just at a common friend's place. He was just there, happened to be there. And I think he saw me and he said, would you act in the film? I said, I'm not an actor. I've been aiding and I want to be a director. And because I had worked with Nagesh, he was also interested in seeing how he could make an independent film with dollar dreams. And that's how we kind of started talking, and I began working with Sekhar back in 98, I think. Yeah.
Do Nagesh Kukunur and Sekhar Kammula, do they share any traits as
No.
people or filmmakers?
No, they're very
None?
different. They're very different. I think Nagesh was a very American filmmaker in the sense it's his sensibilities, the way he would approach his story, the way he thought about story, the way he even wrote. While I thought Shekhar was always the guy who had come back from America knowing clearly that he has to stay back in India, and he was very rooted with his nativity from the very beginning. So his sensibilities and Nagesh's sensibility, I think Nagesh is more Western, while Shekhar is definitely much more Southeast Asian basically.
What was Hyderabad like in 90s? Because I rewatched Dreams very recently, and it felt like a period film because
Yeah,
like the emptiness,
yeah,
the calmness.
yeah.
I can't imagine Hyderabad
Yeah.
like that. I'm sure because you
Yeah.
have seen the city transition.
Yeah.
What was Hyderabad like back then?
Like you said, it was a mixture of being laid back, but there was also a sense of excitement post liberalization. 97 we had already consumed a lot of stuff that was coming in from the West. So we were the last generation, or my college was all about discovering movies on Star Movies, staying up late.
Oh, right.
The introduction of cable television, the cable TV boom had already kind of opened your universe to films from all over the world. Hyderabad was in that exciting space where, while the Y2K boom and everything was about to happen, there was that excitement about the millennium and stuff around the corner. Uh, it was a I think, very aspirational space. I think it was a space of great hope and great excitement. I saw a lot of my friends leave the city while I stayed back to work in
Okay.
the industry. So it was a state of flux. But see, we romanticize when we look back.
The past.
But I'm sure as a young guy at that time also, I was confused, I was apprehensive, I was fearful. But at that time, having done indie films, I was in a happy space because I knew that I was in the right industry. I was doing the right thing. This is something that came naturally to me. This is something that made my heart feel good about the way I'm living life. Although it is a struggle. I mean, those are the times when you haven't really kind of broken in or made it. So there is that apprehension from parents, obviously, as they see you kind of struggle and make their way. But yeah, it was exciting. If I look back at it, I would say it was an exciting time. Hyderabad was laid back, and it's hard to see it change so rapidly also. Yeah.
What are some of your fondest memories from the making of Dollar Dreams? It was made on, I think it was shot at your house also, right?
Yeah, partly shot in my house,
yeah.
partly shot in Shekhar's house. I think the beauty of really indie filmmaking, it's like this handmade sort of methodology that goes into making a film. We were eating lunches at each other's places, taking a break in the afternoon, waiting to see if the light was good, calling people over for the shot. If they're at work, they would take time off from their work and come and kind of. I remember at that time, Satya Krishnan, that was also her debut. She was working in the Taj as a receptionist. So we'd wait for her to, check out from her job and then come and join us. So people were, the cast was actually juggling their daily jobs, while Shekhar and me and a couple of people in the team were making it work from a little apartment in Padmanabh Nagar only, trying to find. See, Hyderabad Blues had created a sense of excitement that indie films can be made. It was that revolutionary leap that had happened. There was suddenly a voice, there was suddenly a market for small independent cinema. So there was that excitement, and we were making something that was on the zeitgeist, really. Like, people were literally moving out of the country. The Kargil war was about to happen. I mean, there was so much happening in our country. And the beauty of making that film is, I can't describe it. It was such a homemade kind of a process.
Very personal film.
Yeah. And the high, I think, would be like, see, I've been going to Sangeet theatre since I was a kid, watching every single movie from McKenna's Gold to,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jackie Chan's My Lucky Stars to Jurassic Park. So to get your little indie film, a matinee show in Sangeet, was a huge achievement for us. It was almost like coming full circle. Here we are back again at the Mecca of cinema, at that theatre that we kind of went and grew up in and watched movies in. To see your hoarding there and to see your film play in Sangeet was a high. And of course, a few months later, when the film won the National Award for Best Debut Film, it was a icing on the cake. It was quite the ride. It was I mean, a lot can be just said about the making of Dollar Dreams. But
I remember Tarun Bhaskar's Facebook post on you.
uh-huh.
And at that time, your Facebook DP was a poster of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
You remember that time, 2018?
Possible. I was obsessed with that song. Malone's song. There was this
In that film?
Butterfly, yeah.
Okay.
Butterfly. So I think must have been a result of that.
And I was recently talking to Surya Manoj
Oh, yeah.
Vangala, and how
Yeah.
he said how Anish sir introduced us to a lot of cool films. What was your exposure to international cinema? Like, when did it begin, and how did it influence your sensibility?
I got lucky because back in '97 when I was still studying, sorry, 90, this would be, yeah, 95, 96 when I was still in college, second year of college. Sarathi Studios used to have the Hyderabad Film Club, and they would have a screening every Tuesday evening. And I would sneak into the theater. See, what would happen is you had to pay $50 for the membership or something like
Monthly membership.
that. Monthly, I don't remember but it was beyond
Your
what I could afford.
spending,
Yeah. So I remember a lot of big bearded guys and very artsy, hipster looking people would be waiting outside the screening hall in Sarathi. I would just, just sneak in, try to look like one of them. And as the doors would open, people would just shuffle in. At that time, there was a bit of bharosa ki people who are, members only would go and watch. I'd just sneak in and I watched a bunch of films. I remember watching Idiots by this filmmaker. What's his name? This guy who made.
It's an American film?
No, it's a Norwegian film.
Okay, no idea.
Yeah, it kind of. I'll
can
get
Google.
back on the. Yeah.
What is it called?
Idiots. Last one. Last one tries. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The Depression Trilogy filmmaker.
Yes.
Ah.
So Idiots was a film that I watched in the film club there. It just bowled me over. I was like, man, what kind of filmmaking? Similarly, Max Müller-Böhme would have a German film festival. Allianz Francaise.
What would have a German film?
Max Müller-Böhme. Max Müller-Böhme was a German language center.
Okay.
I learnt a year of German in school, in college. And Max Müller-Böhme was like the German sort of center for language and culture in Hyderabad. So they would have a German film festival. And Allianz Francaise would have a French film festival in Seefel. What is now called EFLU was then the Center for International English and Foreign Languages in Osmania University. So sneaking into these little film clubs and festivals was one way of me opening my eyes to the rest of the world. But then Desi Masala cinema was all consumed in Sapna, Santosh, Ramakrishna, 30mm, 70mm, saw Rangila, sold Rangila tickets in black, felt like the character Munna. As I'm selling the tickets in black, my friends were like, Choli Ke Piche, Khalnayak, all these films were consumed, in the local theaters. Of course, Sangeet being the mecca for Hollywood films at that time. So, yeah, what was your question about how it opened
Exposure to international.
Yeah, it was just, and see, obviously, the internet wasn't there. So your source of consumption was the actual physical media or the random book on cinema. I would go to that Abbott's because down the road from my college, they would have the Sunday Bazaar and you'd have a lot of these old books being sold. So I'd just pick up, history of world cinema, the 100 great luminaries of, I would just pick it up. It would be on the road for like $10, $15. So I just consumed a lot of literature, just watched all kinds of random films from all across the world with every avenue. The classified section in Deccan Chronicle would have a mention of, which film club is hosting what film. There was this excitement, Haryala Kala Bhavan would randomly have a film festival one day, just like a mix of European films. So these things were randomly happening in pockets all across Hyderabad. I remember it was that season where Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, Zakir Hussain, I think even Mr. Amjad Ali Khan, all came to Necklace Road and did live concerts for free. People could just go to Necklace Road, sit down and watch a concert, Zakir Hussain in concert for free. So there was this exciting moment in Hyderabad, at that time. So I guess I just got lucky that I found my way into these little film clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, something like that only. And of course, VCR. I must say that I owe the VCR a lot. I was one of those top membership guys in, you know, in Top Shop बोल के
Video
मारटपल्ली में था. There was one place called Video Shop, and then Top Shop. Every weekend it was a ritual in my house. Me and my mom and sister would go to the video shop. My mom would pick a Hindi film. She's a Hindi film buff. I would pick a English film. Anything with critters or something that's strange and horrific is what I would pick. I really didn't know. I was still learning cinema. I would just pick anything that looked nice. Something pulpy, something fun. And my dad would pick a Malayalam film. So the weekend would be a ritual of watching Hindi, English, and a Malayalam film, you know, from Saturday through Sunday. So I owe a lot to VCRs because the early filmography of Amitabh Bachchan, the early filmography of Chiranjeevi Garu, were all through VHS tapes. You know, by the time I was able to go and see him in a theatre, it was Gang Leader.
Right.
That was 10th class. You know, there was this perpetual excitement in the corridors of the school. Super Hit magazine lantidi oka film magazine lo a center spread of Gang Leader, and he's looking ultra cool. It was a kind of a comeback. It had been a while since Chiranjeevi Garu had made a film. So the palpable excitement of Gang Leader and the song and everything. So these are things that hubs were there everywhere. You just had to kind of find your nook. So even school was a hub, you know, of especially Telugu cinema excitement. So I kind of like a bee just found my way here and there. Maybe,
No, I find this your upbringing very interesting.
yeah,
That must have like added a lot to your
yeah,
consumption of culture and all, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, how your mom would consume
Yeah.
a Hindi film, dad Malayalam.
yeah.
So do you speak Malayalam?
I speak Malayalam not very well. My mom and dad are Mallus, but my mom is a Mallu who grew up in Hyderabad. So she's like a second generation Hyderabadi. She's very Telangana and Urdu. My dad is somebody native to Kerala who moved to Hyderabad in the 70s. So, and then my mom went to a convent school. My dad went to a hardcore Malayalam language school. I grew up in a household which was primarily speaking in English because it was just the medium of easy communication or whatever. Tittle matram Malayalam వచ్చేది అన్నమాట when they had to yell at me or scream at me. But yeah, I was, because of, I think, that milieu, you know, of my family and my immediate surroundings in Tarnaka, you know, lots of Anglo friends, lot of Muslim friends, lot of Parsi friends, lots of Telugu friends. It was just a melange. Same thing in school too. So I think, yeah, I grew up as for some time I didn't feel like I have an identity other than just calling myself a Hyderabadi, a laid back Secunderabad guy. That's how I kind of look at myself, you know. So yeah, I'm like a mishmash of all these cultures, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Coming back to films,
Mm.
what are some of your like most influential films and filmmakers?
Sekhar Kapoor is a huge influence. His film Masoom means a hell of a lot to me. You know, it's a book that I later on discovered. It's called Man, Woman and Child by Eric Siegel. But the film itself I had seen when I was very young, and it deeply moved me because I felt like the central character in the film. I remember there was one summer when my parents had left on a holiday or something and had left me at my aunt's place. So I identified a lot with the main character of the film who felt very alone, you know, in a house. That film meant a hell of a lot to me. It still does. But the film that really bowled my, like, Chota Chetan, when it came out, went to Anand Theatre with my family to watch it. 3D film. I remember, like, as a child, just grappling in the air. You know, that is like the magic of cinema. That moment can only be replicated by E.T. Another, I mean, like,
Watch it on the big screen?
No, on the small screen. E.T. and all these films are films I discovered only through VCR because these films had already done their early run in the 80s in Hyderabad, so I hadn't seen it then. I'm a huge Spielberg fan. I just grew up consuming everything that he made, including the films that he produced like Back to the Future and Goonies.
Oh yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Goonies. See, on the top of my mind, I would say, you know, Spielberg and Sekhar Kapoor would be my filmmakers that I kind of really still look up to. I admire everything that they have done, like from Mr. India to Bandit Queen. I just love his range. Look at that range. Masoom, Bandit Queen, And then Elizabeth. Mr. India somewhere in between. So, I mean, I'm in awe. And just the sweeping work of Spielberg, just everything that he has done. I wish, I was on
No,
the
the
sets
range,
to watch.
yeah,
Yeah. And then as I grew up a little bit more, I've been a big fanboy of Mani Ratnam sir also. Because if he was this perfect blend of artistry and commercial filmmaking, I just thought riveting what he was doing with the camera and the image. He brought that image kind of closer to kind of my eye kind of a thing. These would be much later on when I was older, into my early 20s, is when I really began appreciating Satyajit Ray and the films that he made. It took me a while because when I was young, I would just dismiss it as this is boring, this is not moving forward. What is this black and white? I can't. But when I was older, the Apu trilogy was truly transformational at many levels. Very, very moving films. So yeah, I will add even Satyajit Ray. All S's for some reason.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Spielberg,
Satyajit Ray,
Sekhar,
Steven Spielberg,
Satyajit Ray.
Shekhar Kapoor.
No, how do you look at this whole lag discourse these days?
See, someone else's lag is someone else's poetry, someone else's idea of what is taking too long to be said. For someone else, it is in the unsaid or it is in the gesture or the glimpse. So, yeah, lag is it's truly relative, But I do see the thing with when you are a younger filmmaker, no, somehow it takes you a long time, or for me at least, it took me a long time to be objective about my work. I remember making films thinking I'm making it only for myself. But Spielberg only said you're making it for the audience, your service is to the audience. And that kind of rewired, and that's when I can look back at my own work and be like, oh my God, this is lag, man. How did I even say okay to something like this? So you as you get older and as you get a little more refined with your own filmmaking, as you understand your own limitations, you don't mind killing off your babies because you understand ultimately the service of the story is, yes, your interpretation of the world, but it is in the service of entertaining the audience. And I'm still learning how to master that. I don't think anyone can have it completely figured out, but at least acknowledging that that is really your service was a big circle for me. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I
yeah,
get it. I get it.
something like that. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
life change drastically after Dollar Dreams?
No, it didn't, because the struggle continued. Because it's not like anybody, Shekhar wanted to make Anand. It was his thesis work. It was at a very early stage. And after Dollar Dreams, I had given up on any ideas of continuing working in the Telugu industry. Because
Okay.
I never really felt I had a future here. And I had written a script which I thought I would make into a Hindi film, and I did what everyone does, that is get on a train to Bombay, get off the other station, checked into Kashmir Hotel, which is right opposite VST, and I pretty much was in Bombay for a year, pitching scripts to everybody, from Mahesh Bhatt to Amir Khan. It's like the whole
Okay.
range of, yeah. So that was a tremendous, that Bombay struggle of trying to get your pitch out there, and it was picked up. And for a time, it seemed like it might be actually happening, but then it didn't happen because they felt I was just too young. That's when Anand got funding from NFDC, because Dollar Dreams had won the
Yeah, national award.
national award, and suddenly I was like, okay, the Bombay Dreams can
Wait,
can
at least
wait.
wait. Yeah.
Let me get back and work on Anand with Shekhar, and then it happened with Anand. So yeah, it wasn't easy after Dollar Dreams. There was a period of struggle, and that Bombay struggle comes. That's the story there.
Tell me about that Bombay struggle.
I, I was after Dollar Dreams. I had to really question now what is going to happen with my life. We didn't think it would be. See, the film was not a big hit at the box office or anything like that. It got some critical praise and stuff like that, but not something that would let you step into the next kind of league or anything. I knew that I had to go back and now actually write a script. What did I feel really strongly about? And the process of writing my first ever script is a story by itself. Like finding all kinds of excuses. Like I started off writing longhand, and then I think somewhere in between the story, I decided I'll get a typewriter from my dad's office, tried typing on it, but figure out that typing is out of the question with all those ribbons and shit like that. I rented my first ever computer, desktop. It was very expensive. I don't remember the price, but it was expensive to write my first script. So in this process, finally, over a year, I wrote a script, which I felt is the greatest masterpiece ever. And I just took it to Bombay.
What was
and
it about?
It is about, I won't give it away because I still hope to make it one
wow.
day.
Okay,
I
okay.
still hope to make it one day.
Okay.
But it's about a very innocent person changing the world, you know, just by being innocent. He has an impact in the world.
Sounds like Forrest Gump.
Might sound a lot like Forrest Gump, but it isn't anything like
Okay,
that.
okay, okay.
But you're not wrong in terms of just the tone I might have wanted to go for. Innocence kind of
Innocent, yeah.
cutting through, you know, layers of, you know, bureaucracy or patriarchal mindsets or, you know, that kind of a thing. So anyway, so I really firmly believed in it, and I did what was, I had already experienced a bit of Bombay with Dollar Dreams because the 20th Century Fox had picked up the national distribution for it, for which Dollar Dreams had to be redubbed in Hindi. And I spent a lot of time in Bombay getting all of that done. So I got a peek into what the life of a struggler could be like, and had mentally prepared myself ki, you know, this is where I'm going to go and what's going to happen. The Bombay struggle was, you know, I mean, I don't want to romanticize it too much. A bunch of meetings with producers who saw my script, thought it had potential. Some of them dismissed it right away. One particular producer picked it up and felt it had great potential. And I spent 6 months after that excitedly developing it with them, hoping that this producer will now pitch it to the star. But then I was informed that the star had moved on to another project and probably is not the right time. I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. Arey bhai, itna, when you see a dream happen, like I went through that 1 year struggle, got lucky that somebody picked up a script. In fact, I remember I was going back to the office to take the script back. It had been a while since I had left it there. So I thought, let me pick up my physical copy of the script. And the day I went, it was the day they said, look, we've been trying to get in touch with you. And we didn't know how to because there's no pager, there's no phone. So it was the PP number or my house number or something like that. Oh no, it was, there was an email address. Apparently I had not seen the email or something like that. And they said, we were trying to get in touch with you. And they said, we're excited about your script. And that journey then started, you know. It didn't happen 6 months later and I was absolutely devastated. But even before I could start brooding on anything, Anand happened and I just got on board to be the executive producer, the chief AD on the project, and of course acted in it. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience just making that film.
Did life change post Anand?
No, my life has never changed. It never happens like it is in the movies, you know. Life, what changes is your confidence and your ability or your idea that, yeah, we can make a film, right? We started off with something like Dollar Dreams, a small film. We made an entertaining and very, very, not just sensible, a film full of heart in Anand. And it did so well in the box office. By the time I had made Godavari, because Godavari is very close to my heart. Like I literally, you know, drove that car to on the Godavari Gattu every single day of those 100 days shoots, you know, early in the morning to get everyone on the boat, and we'd go upriver, downriver. It is, I have and it has had also a very transformational impact in the economy there with those cruises and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It
Directly helping them, right?
Yeah, it wasn't popular then. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just a
yeah,
very
yeah.
random idea. That experience of making Godavari changed me as a filmmaker in the sense, gave me a great deal of confidence that we can make any story, we can tell any story. I remember telling Sekhar, look, we can go to Mount Everest also and tell a story after having conquered, you know, been on that massive river, which you have to really respect it. That river, the fact that it didn't consume anybody, nobody got hurt over those 100 days is a miracle. So Godavari that way changed me as a filmmaker. It really triggered me to want to break out and make my own film now, actually. That's what happened.
100 days.
Yeah, 96 days or something like that. I don't remember the exact. I'm the executive producer. I should remember the number of days.
No, must
But
have
it's
been a
got immaculate
logistical
manner.
nightmare,
Yeah,
right?
it was tough.
How did
See,
you guys pull it off?
a lot of effort. I think so I still remember we went to the irrigation department. They had the old Arthur Cotton boat there. It was called the Arthur Cotton boat. It was already 60, 70 years old. We rented that boat from the irrigation department. We built a set on top of it. We got a great captain, a man who could steer the boat. Ram Babu, his name was. We used to call him Rambo because you study the river. The river will tell you whether you can shoot on that day or not. You learn to respect
So
the
there
river.
have been days where you called off shoot because
No, there
it
have
was-
been days where our boat is stuck in the iska and it can't move forward. So people have to get off, unload so that the boat can be moved. You know, there have been times when we're shooting in the middle of the night, somewhere inside Papakondulu, and you can see these lights in the forests and gunshots going. It is these police battalions doing combing operations in the jungle. There have been nights where we have sat back. I think it was Diwali night or Holi night. Diwali, I think. No, it must be Holi. We sat, the entire cast and crew got off the boat somewhere in remote Papikondulu. There was a bed of iska there. We all sat that night because we had to wait for the sun to rise at the right time to take those climax shots. It's one of the most beautiful experiences. Just the entire cast and crew lying down on the island, the fireplace. So many beautiful moments making both Anand as well as Godavari. Godavari, of course, just the geography of it. I still remember on our, see, going upriver is a battle. You're going against the tide. Coming down is easier. You're, going with the tide. In the night, after the last shot is done, as the boat is making its way with the entire entourage of 100 people, it's not just one boat. It's another punt attached to it. It is another launch attached to it. It's basically it's a 3-engine boat making its way down the river, and they would cut off the engines because the river is taking you
downstream.
down. And I would feel like, my God, we are consumed by this black vastness. It would seem like this tremendous mother snake that is just taking you down river, and you're deeply respectful of nature. You're praying that nobody gets hurt and nothing happens. And I don't know, it's a very humbling experience when you're working with nature in such close proximity. My love for the river Godavari really just went up 100-fold after that film. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about.
No, so where were you guys staying?
No, we were parked in Rajahmundry. In hotels all across Rajahmundry, and every day we would get into our entourage of vehicles, drive about 55 minutes through the Gotarigattu to I forget the name of the place. I think I wish I could remember the name of the village that we would stop off at. The boat would already be there. So we shot the early portions of our journey from Pushkar Ghat. Once we are done with Upbringing, Godavari, all that part, I still remember the river was in spate. It was flooding at that time. We had committed to taking the boat off river, okay, and we are making our way. We are coming under the bridge, the Great Rajahmundry Bridge. I think about 50 feet before we were to get under the bridge, we realized the top tower of the boat, the set that we have constructed, is potentially going to hit the bridge. So carpenters were climbing up, sawing it all off in time for the boat to go under the bridge. They literally sawed it off in time as the boat went under the bridge and we came out. That's why the Uppungile Godavari song brings back those memories of how because that day we had to get it out. There was a lot of delays. We had spent time, the boat was waiting, the cast had come together, we had auditioned all these local actors. The boat was ready to leave, like, the production meter also is running, you can't keep it staying there. So we had to get the boat moving, and it was so dramatic. It was also dramatic, and from there, it was one adventure after the other, physically, emotionally, under the beating sun in the middle of the river. Everyone was getting baked, but the cast and crew just came together because you're all sharing this finite space now, so you have to depend on each other. So, yeah.
Where would the cans, costumes, where would all of them be kept?
So, there would be a place in the launch, which would be like a kind of a dark room, where the guy handling the camera, the negative of the camera, would go to change the mags and also store them, in a cool dark place. So that's how it was done. Later on, those cans would be taken and put under my bed in my room, in the AC room, because it always had to be
In Rajahmundry.
in Rajahmundry.
Okay.
And we would rotate cans. We would send back the cans that have been exposed in a vehicle that's coming from Hyderabad. So that to and fro process was always, with filmmaking, when we were shooting on film, you had to be very mindful about the amount of footage that you had, whether it's exposed. Once it's exposed, you want to get it out of your hands as fast as possible and into the lab as soon as possible. So you're following that cycle of negative films, coming and going. So yeah, that was something else.
So I remember reading this interview. Sekhar Kammula had interviewed you
Yeah,
for Idle Brain,
yeah, for Avakai. I think.
Avakai Biryani,
Yeah.
and he asks you, how many cans did you use for Avakai Biryani? And you say less than Anand, which was like, I think the target was some 250 for Avakai Biryani,
Okay.
but you ended up using some 385.
Oh, okay.
But for Anand, it was some 400 or 450.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay.
Do you
okay.
remember like
I-
overexposed film for Anand?
Anand, yes. Anand, yes. Not many know this, but almost there is a version of Anand that exists somewhere. We shot in Telugu as well as in English. There's a version of Anand that has all the actors speaking in English. Not
Every
just in
scene.
Telugu, no, almost every scene. But somewhere I think 30, 40, I don't want to think Shekhar will be more accurate with this, I should remember. But I think 30 or 40% of the way down we decided this is not going to work out. Let's stick to the Telugu version, and then we only continued with the Telugu version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So initially it was a bilingual.
It was a bilingual, a proper Telugu version as well as in English, because our experience with Dollar Dreams was like that. Dollar Dreams had a Hindi version which had less Telugu in it and more Hindi and English, and then the original version of Dollar Dreams had equal parts Telugu and we've been the problem with being multilingual is you want to tell your stories in as many languages as possible. So I think Shekhar and me have probably had that problem.
You tell me, what do you think explains the longevity of Anand and Godavari? Why do you think are these films still fresh?
I think Anand definitely came at a time when that sense of storytelling wasn't there. It was filling this beautiful gap in middle of the road cinema for all audiences, not just middle class audiences, but to all sections of society. A film that spoke a little more naturally, a film that was very heartfully intent about being about good things, about your rightful place in the world, about a woman, trying to kind of not fight through her identity
Stand
or
up for herself.
stand
Yeah,
up for herself. That's better put. I think it just spoke to the audiences at that time. I think it was one of those on the zeitgeist kind of a film. It just was welcomed. It was like a good cup of coffee. It was that Manchi Coffee Land cinema. I think it's hard to explain because but I feel like the earnestness and the innocence and just the honesty with which that story was told just stood the test of time. Same thing with Godavari too. I think that plus the scale in Godavari. I think those would be the reasons. I think Shekhar is the right person to answer this.
Yeah.
I'll have so many more complicated kind of emotions attached.
I think you can be more objective than him.
I can be, but I have also understood that some things can't just be explained or articulated as this is why it worked or this is how it is. I want to hold back on it because Anand can mean different things for different people almost.
Yeah.
But I felt it just struck a chord because of the sensibility. Here were women and men talking normally, naturally about things. They're being funny, they're being sweet, they're being vulnerable, they're being honest about their feelings. Just such fresh dialogue, which I think was just wonderful to hear in the ears, So yeah, maybe there are more factors also. I don't know.
Let's come to Avakai Biryani. What kind of a producer is Sekhar Kammula?
A very good producer too.
Kind of producer
in the
you
sense when I wrote Avakai Biryani first, it was a very dark and gritty drama.
Really?
Yeah, very dark and very gritty, and Shekhar was like, lighten this up, dude. This is just a lot. I was this young, angst-ridden kind of a guy, and I was also reacting on a few things in my life at that time. I was in a sort of interreligious relationship. So I was trying to put those same factors into my kind of story. And I felt, yeah, I think if this project has to get greenlit, I better make it in a more
Palatable.
space. And then I did some thinking, and I kind of went back and kind of wrote another draft. Um, and it was important for me to break the stereotype of the Hindu Muslim love story cliche that had become a part of Telugu cinema at that time. You know, everything had to be told with violence, everything had to be told with anger. I didn't want to deal with a story like that. I felt a love story like this can be dealt in a slightly alternative way, a more rational space, a more equanimous kind of conversation where we see people for who they are. They're, you know, manchal ga treat cheyakapote ante, that's what Akbar says in the film.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
see
yeah.
see me for who I am. You know,
Not for my religion.
so that was my driving force to tell the story. But then there was that a little bit of a fairy tale aspect to that storytelling, to set it in a small town, to make it about the aspiration of an auto driver who wants to graduate. That's his compelling point in the film, that he not to fall in love and get married. That's a part of the life that he's leading,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to graduate and make it. And a girl who's an entrepreneur who wants to do something for herself and her family. Bring these two strong individuals and see how rational an interreligious marriage or an interreligious relationship could be represented. I felt like that conversation was not happening anywhere, and all the cinema that dealt with subjects like that were just riddled with bad language or violence,
Blood,
as
yeah,
just
yeah.
blood. You know, I didn't think that was the solution. I felt like there is a new wave of there is a new India here. You know, there is a what today they would call love jihad or something like that. I don't know, but it's so I brought that kind of perspective to it. I don't know. That was your question about why what?
No, this part, and then
Yeah.
what kind of a producer was
Oh, Shekhar
Sekhar Kammula?
Was great. Like once he knew that I was in this space. He just let me just do it. I mean, he didn't turn up to the shoot except for the opening on the first day of the shoot to just see us off. After that, we were pretty much on our own shooting in Vikarabad. And he was very, very liberal and very, very, you know, I think he had been through the whole, my first film, and he knew what it meant for a first filmmaker to bring their film out there.
Was he empathetic?
He was very empathetic, very sensitive, and I think, I mean, it has to be a miracle for me to kind of, you know, work with a producer like that. It is what he brought to Avakai, and everything was. I mean, I remember we were walking to his film chamber, and he said, "Hey, what is the title of the film? You thought of a title? We have to register the title." I just sheepishly said, "I was thinking Avakai Biryani." Just, oh, he was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's just, you know, it's a decision he made. Okay, let's just register the title." You know, at that point, I just felt like, how can I better explain this film?
The other
you
concept
know?
of the
Yeah,
film.
yeah. So yeah, he was wonderful. Yeah, great
No,
producer.
what was the original gritty version like?
Gritty version is
Do they die
set.
at the end?
It's no, not die, but it was set in the old city. You know, it was set in a very kind of different kind of a backdrop. It was more kind of more Hyderabadi. I wouldn't say like not like rural Telangana that it was. It was more kind of Hyderabad centric. That would be the main difference, and probably more gritty because no beautiful landscapes. You're in the innards of old city, so you can imagine sort of a very sort of very, you know, your hard urban kind of environment, not the beautiful pastures of Vikarabad. So that is the difference really.
Okay, from Avakai Biryani to Mystery of Moksha Island,
Yeah.
how much do you think you have evolved as a storyteller?
I have definitely evolved. I've evolved in the right direction of sort of, you know, progressively kind of being. I'm very critical of my own work, you know, and evolution. It never stops. You're learning as a filmmaker. There's never a point where you're like, I've figured everything out. You know, every project I've made, you know, post Avakai, whether it was Ko Ante Koti or Gods of Dharumpuri, I was learning something new and unlearning some things too. You know,
Okay, unlearning also.
unlearning a lot of
Okay.
things. Like, do I really need one more shot? Do I really need this angle? Is he the right actor for this role? Is he miscast? Making bigger calls like that, you know, and looking at your story also very objectively, like what is the purpose of the story here? What is the scene doing here? So your ability to be able to kind of analyze your work definitely gets a little more refined. You're unlearning some of your bad habits, or you know, some of the stuff that you do, but it's constant learning only, Ram. I've never stopped, and I don't think it'll ever stop. Every film, everything that you do creatively teaches you something. So it's an ongoing process, I would say. Yeah.
What's something that you unlearned in Kovante Koti or Gods? Like, tell me, give me examples of both.
Konte Koti is actually a film that I didn't get a chance to completely finish making. You know, we were in post production, but there was a release date which we couldn't miss. So
December 31st.
very close, December 28th.
28th, okay,
It's
okay.
the worst
okay.
possible release date ever, because a week or
Month
2 weeks
end,
later,
yeah.
there's nobody who wants to watch a film. But that was the release date, and it is almost a little tragic, sad tragic, that I couldn't really finish making the film. My learning from Konte Koti would have been to take it a little easy with some of your storytelling. Don't be so rapid. I don't think you're communicating what it is that you're wanting to say. You're it's going through your eyes with total comprehension, but I don't think the audiences are missing the beat. You know, I should have slowed down here. I should have underlined something here. I should have made a better, you know, job of, you know, telling that flashback properly. You know, so I definitely have made those kind of mistakes. With Gods, the unlearning in God, wow, because it's such a success, I have to now rethink about. Oh, that's you know, it's such an incredible experience. God, like with everything kind of really, I think I stopped getting a little manic about my short coverage and stuff like that. You know, there was a tremendous comfort for the first time when it came to, you know what, this scene is going to be blocked just like this. I remember conversations that Srikant and Naveen and me would have in Hampi, sitting back every night, have over a beer, and we just talk about the next day's scene. We talk about how this is going to be shot. So I was now coming to sets with a preconceived idea of, you know, exactly what it is. We had seen the terrain, we had seen the actors, we knew what it took to kind of tell the story. And I wasn't doing the, let's just try and cover the scene in every which way possible. Let's just, and not just for the sake of coverage or more options in edit, but to only shoot it strategically in this way. And I really loved that process. So that unlearning happened, you know, that you sometimes do as a filmmaker. You just want to, or ek angle le lete hain, let's just also, no.
Safety
Somewhere,
ke liye,
yeah, that just got, safety kosam doing something was something I think that kind of went away from my mind. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying hard to think of very good things to say, but in terms of learning,
I get it.
these are the things that come to my head right now. Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
it. How did this happen? Mystery of Moksha Island.
Oh,
It's been a long journey, right?
it's been quite a journey. It's almost 2.5 years or so. I think post God, I was being offered a lot of very similar God kind of films, and we were not doing season 2 right away. And I was pitching stuff that I had worked on, I had written and collaborated with other actors, and those weren't going anywhere. So that was a humbling experience. You would think that, you know, you have something out there which is successful,
And
but the
life
market
didn't
was
change.
all about, no, we have this, it's in the pipeline, it's been okay. Why don't you come on board? So it is towards the end of that year of trying to get my own story getting done, I was getting a little frustrated when this project kind of came to me. Actually, it's Naveen who was telling me about the project, and I heard the story. And the sci-fi aspect of it excited me, because for me, it was about what is the next, at least big cool idea or interesting thing, that interesting universe that I could dive into, that I could commit myself into. You know, I'm always looking for that filmmaking experience,
worlds.
which can be transformative for me, which is a whole new world that I will enter into, and therefore I'll have a great time showing it to audiences. I was I'm always driven by that. What is, for me, it has to, at the story level, it was seemed like a great, exciting idea. Although it was written by Prashant and Sanjay, and so it had already come to me with a set foundation and a set architecture and plots and stuff like that. So tonally, it wasn't in the space that my other films were. Even with Konte Koti and everything, there was some realism attached to some characters and their motives or their constructs in the universe. With this, it wasn't there. It was actually really out there, which I felt was outside. It was outside anything I had done before. That kind of excited me. So then began the journey of, kind of, I worked with the writing team to kind of embellish the story that Prashant had worked on. I was just doing some interior decoration to it and added some elements with my team, which I felt heightened some of the more intriguing aspects of the story, and that's how it kind of began, that journey. Once I had that in place, Hotstar were excited about, okay, here is what we'd like to do. They were also excited about my vision for where we could take it forward, and that's how we got on that journey.
So, is adapting someone else's material, do you find it as a constraint or a liberating thing?
If the story is something that excites you in principle, and if the creator of the story is giving you that leverage to embellish it the way you want, then it can be a very liberating experience. And it has been that way with
Prashant.
Mystery. Yeah, Prashant was very open with, some ideas I was throwing at him, and he was like, yeah, sure, this sounds good, like, go in that direction. Because what was there was a foundation and an architecture, but I felt like I wanted to pour into certain areas a little bit more. Like, I wanted to discover the jungle a little bit more. I wanted to be outdoors a little bit more. I'm that sort of a filmmaker. I don't like being confined in any kind of space generally. I like to be. So I was doing that sort of a embellishment to the story. I was more geeky about, okay, let's just get really out there with some of our sci-fi elements. Let's show whatever little bit of gore that we can show. Just push that pulpy aspect, to the storytelling as much as it allows. So you had to find a kind of fine balance. You'll probably understand when you see the show yourself, with the way the characters are emoting and the way they are reacting, and there's just the crazy stuff that happens in the island, that the promise of a roller coaster ride, the promise of an adventure, the promise of a survival story in an island, the promise of mysterious sci-fi elements and a deeper mystery to it, the promise of a, I've always loved characters like Shan in Dr. Dang in Shang, or Mogambo in Mr. India, or Gabbar Singh. I've always wanted to kind of have a larger than life sort of a character.
So, Ashutosh Rana is in
So
a
Dr.
way
Vishwak
that?
Sen is something like that. It's not quite in that space, but something like that. In just the way he brings a certain theatrical quality to the character, a larger than life sort of a villain. So those kind of things excited me. It got us geeked out about what we could explore. Of course, there are the constructs of what the story can actually do and what you can bring into it. But it's been a tremendous challenge. It's been a lot of collective effort, great effort from my team here that has been sitting, a great writing team, a great bunch of actors who came on board and really committed and gave it all their own to this very wacky, crazy, entertaining show, which is tonally very different from the kind of stuff I've done. But it's been an exciting ride. Quite with any filmmaker will be nervous and excited before a film's release. So that's this kind of space.
Coming out in a couple of hours, guys. We are shooting it on Thursday evening, but you might have seen the show before this interview airs. Anyway, we were having this discussion, right, about gore and stuff. Why do you think we, as beat Indian filmmaking, I don't want to restrict it to Telugu, but as Indian filmmakers or Indian OTT or something, why do you think we are not able to go full out? But do you realize that you look at something like an American version of an action film and an Indian version of an Indian action film, Kill in recent times, it has gone like, it tried to push the boundary to an extent.
I haven't seen Kill.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah. But But you're getting what I'm saying, right?
Why we haven't been able to push
Yeah.
gore? I think because the lines are drawn, you know, pre-drawn. Like in terms of look, let's not let's not go beyond this line because we want a certain demographic of audiences to watch this. I think if that's the determining factor, then yeah, you know, unless you are producing that content yourself, you're not going to be at liberty to be able to kind of go all out
All
there.
out. Yeah.
Gore is fun, you know. I mean, obviously Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and people like that have shown that it can be kind of shown in a very fun, entertaining kind of a way. But maybe I don't know. Maybe it is also the tastes of our filmmakers, or maybe audiences. Maybe filmmakers are extra cautious about showing gory content. I must caution that there is nothing gory
In
in this, like, but
Okay.
there are those moments. I don't want to classify it as gory because maybe because gory is associated with horror, and with sci-fi I would say I'll just call it thrills. I like this old you would see in old films there will be this title called
Thrills.
thrills.
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
wonder
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
it is. Actually, it had to do with chase sequences, not quite action, but you know, I don't know what exactly it meant.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I classified that as those thrills, those little moments. Maybe it is maybe a little gore also. I don't know. Maybe I've seen it enough times for me to be. Maybe I'm sensitized to it. We'll see. But yeah, maybe it is just a cultural thing here. I don't know. Hard to say. I've see violence shouldn't be mindless, or violence for the sake of it, I don't think is ever good to watch. But when violence is shown as something that is motivated into the story or motivated by the character or happens with some visual brilliance, then it's always great to watch. So having that balance is very important. What is the intent behind that gore? What is the intent behind that violence? So yeah.
See, like you said, there was one part of your personality in Avakai Biryani.
Yeah.
Did you put your any part of personality in Kovante Koti, Gods, or
Yeah.
now this?
Yeah.
Which parts? Because it doesn't.
See, with Avakai, maybe it was my outlook to life, people in
It's more
general.
obvious in Avakai
Yeah,
Biryani.
it's more obvious in Avakai Biryani. With Konte Koti, it was my homage to the detective novel. It was my homage to those pulpy crime fiction novels that were sold in train stations, you know. And with Gods of Dharmapuri, it was me really geeking out on this opportunity to do a period gangster show. Like everyone daydreams of doing their version
Goodfellas.
of
Yeah,
Goodfellas
yeah,
or
yeah.
Godfather or that gangster saga, right? So this was that fantastic opportunity. So what I loved about that is the fact that I was able to even bring that through the language, the dialect that we were using. With so there is I think as a filmmaker or as a person, everyone is multi-layered. We are so many beings. We are so many complex, you know, beings. And as a filmmaker, I'm drawn to something like a moth to a light, you know. So with Moksha, with the Mystery of Moksha Island, it was telling a very kinetic, edge of the seat or gripping sci-fi survival story, you know, with interesting elements, surprising elements coming your way, pushing the boundary a little bit in terms of how comfortable can audiences get with certain things. So yeah, there's just different aspects of my personality that are drawn to each of these things.
No, what is your take on the art versus artist debate?
What is the big conversation about art and artists if you were to just
See, like say there is an artist. Let's say he has done something f***ed up in real life.
ah
Can we separate his work from his
okay, Woody
personality?
Allen is a great example.
Woody Allen, yeah, he's like the face of this debate.
Yeah,
Or Hitchcock for that matter.
Hitchcock too, yes. It's complicated.
Because they are legends and they have contributed immensely to film history.
Yeah. It's complex and complicated. I can understand why some people are still geek out on a Woody Allen film, you know, even knowing what he has, you know, allegedly done. I don't know, Ram. I am even with Michael Jackson, for example, you know. I think as human beings we can be very evil ourselves and very cold ourselves. So sometimes our minds will just switch off to that aspect, and maybe we just watch cinema for cinema's sake, or a story for story's sake, or listen to a song just because of what the song makes you feel like. But yes, when you think about the artists, I can only say it's complicated and it's murky. I don't think I have figured it out yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you wanted to, and you're very excited about this film that you have
Yes.
made and you're
Yes.
waiting to show to the world. What is it
Yes.
about? I mean, like, let's not get into it completely
Yeah, we
because
won't get into
we'll
it.
catch up when
Yes.
it's closer to release. But what
Yeah.
can you reveal now?
For now, I think I can reveal that it's a sweet, endearing dramedy, the ultimate feel-good film that I got to make with my friends here. Um, at a very high level, it's a film about emotional mental health, but the entire story
Okay.
is dealt in a very light-hearted sort of manner. You know, it is a story about a bunch of very interesting characters, coming together. Yeah, I don't want to reveal too much about it, but it is a sweet, heartwarming, a film with its heart in the right place. I haven't made that kind of a film in a long while. It's beautifully musical. Our music was produced by Sneha Kanwalkar.
Oh,
yeah,
Gangs of
yeah,
Wasipur.
Gangs of Wasipur. It was edited by Umair and Faiz. Srikant is a production designer. Naveen is the DOP, and we all wrote it together too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's one of those deeply collaborative efforts, and I'm excited to bring a piece of cinema like this to Telugu screens. I really am. So, looking forward to that towards over the next few months when I hopefully can come back to you and talk about it.
We
and-
will. We
yeah,
will.
yeah, great.
Superb. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the time and opening up and sharing all the insights. It's been a very pleasant, lovely conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. It was wonderful. It was enjoyable.
Likewise. Hey, hi guys. So, your team.
Yes.
Please introduce.
Yeah, this is my team behind all the wonderful stuff that we've made together. This is Srikant Ramisetti. He's the production designer. Naveen Yadav, who is the DOP. Umair Hassan, Faiz Rai are my editors on the show.
Lovely. Any role? How long have you guys been working together for?
My first movie was with Anish. Kohante Koti was my first film as a cinematographer. So I've traveled with him for almost 10 years now. Then Gods of Dharmapuri, we three of us were part of it. Srikant was a production designer, I was a cinematographer. And now with this Mystery of Moksha Island and our coming up projects, Umair and Faiz have also joined our team.
Okay, the first new
Yeah.
entrants.
Yeah,
This is the second project we're
Second
doing
project.
with Anish. The first one,
The movie.
yes, the movie that Anish mentioned earlier.
so yeah, that's the team now.
What kind of a director is he?
Oh, I think I didn't have to go to film school because it's been him like trying to like tell me all the steps of the film, like the protocol that you follow when you make any film. Anish has been my instructor. Like in fact, the last Teachers' Day I was wishing him also like Happy Teachers' Day, because he's the kind of director who would give you that kind of wings to like fly literally. Like he'll not restrict you. You would want to be open to hear all the ideas that you have, and he'll pick the best one. But he'll never like put any idea down if it is a good one. So that I think is an amazing quality that he has. And thanks, Anish. So I think that way he's always encouraged me, and I think I've got the best out of my work when I work with him.
My first collaboration with him was for Gods. Unfortunately, I didn't know him much before, and I got introduced to him because of Naveen on his son's birthday. So I just had to, come down with my friends, and I was saying hi, hello to all the people around, and I met Anish, and we had good chat, and then he later probably found me interesting, and we collaborated for GOD. But apart from my movies, this web series experience was like the first time for me working for Gods, and it was one of the best projects ever. Like 100% collaboration, be it from the artist or the production design or the camera work, the sound, and the story itself. It was so wonderful. And then the second chance was the Mystery of Moksha Island, which we called it something else previously. But he came up with this very brilliant idea of the story, and for me, I think my best contribution for this was to make his idea believable physically. So it was
Believable physical in what do you mean?
also like you would have something written in your script, but unless you see something and make it obvious and believable through the design, I mean, through my set design or the prop design or whatever we come up with, That was my contribution, and it wasn't easy though. There were so many Zoom calls happening because it was second phase Corona at the end, and we were not meeting physically with the production. So all these Zoom calls, it was very new to me, but it was fun. And so I used to sketch a lot, and I used to send this design to him, and that was passed on to the production house. So they used to talk about it, and there were many ideas in the beginning, but we had to look for the most economical one because the underground lab was like shot in the last schedule, like not the last, but the one before that. So we had to be little economical and considerate, probably that is the right word. So, and after that is this movie. You will know the name little later. That was most wonderful experience. Again, we shot it all in Goa, and this time Faiz and Umer, they collaborated with us. So this is the team getting bigger.
No, the show was shot in a lot of real locations, right?
Yes.
I would like to know what is your contribution as a production designer when it is a real
See,
location.
I can
as
break it
opposed to a
into
set.
two parts. The thing is, I was also working on a film that time with Devakatta Garu. So it wasn't possible for me to go to all the locations. But the heart of it comes to this lab, which is like in an island and which is in the underground, and it's like sea facing, and there's so much craziness going on. You'll see it in the show. So my part comes in a bit later in this, and I had to make all this story believable because it will all end up in this crazy place. So that was the crux and the core. But apart from that, the outdoor shoot, these guys have handled it without me. I had my assistant there though, but I wish I was there too. But the later on parts were like much more interesting to me, and once I see what they've done in the outdoors, I feel like it was a good balance. But I knew the story all the way, and he was explaining me what they were shooting, and we were in a constant chat with the ads there and also the writing team which traveled there. So we used to have this very regular 2 or 3 days mein ek bar wala phone call, and it was like very long, 1 hour. What are you doing? What? So try this out. So the ideas were exchanging. But the locations were really wild and crazy.
Nice, guys. What was your experience like working on the show?
So Anish is a sort of a director who has this ability to realize the full potential of his crew members,
Okay.
and I think the way he goes about it is by he lets them exercise their creativity. He lets them be, in simplest terms. So, so there are a lot of filmmakers, who look at film as as personal art. But so me also as a relatively new storyteller, in the industry, I've come to realize, or I've come to learn from Anish, that film is always a team project, and it's always important to give that space for somebody to exercise their creativity, and that liberty that he gives his crew automatically makes the storytelling of a project better.
Nice.
So so there's a lot I've learned from him. And I've also, another great thing I've learned from him is that not to take the film so seriously. It's
Okay.
very important.
So
for your-
detached, stay a bit detached. What does
No,
that
not
that
really.
exactly
I
mean?
mean, see, me as a filmmaker myself, I used to take this, the subject, the craft, way too seriously, like like as if it's some matter of life and death. But it's only after working with Anish I realized, the importance of letting it be. There is, because I also like sort of realized that working with him, that film has a life of its own, so it'll do its thing. So you just have to nudge it, maneuver it in the right directions. You don't really have to like drag it, pull it. So yeah. So
No,
I
you
think-
wanted to say something?
No, that's how I
Okay.
to round off what working with Anish is, and all the things I've learned from him.
Lovely, lovely.
So I think more or less whatever Umair has mentioned, I just wanted to add one thing, which I think, for me personally, the thing that I really struck me about Anish is that he has this ability to distill an idea into a sentence, and if you push him, he'll distill it to a word also, and that I think is an incredible ability.
for a filmmaker to have.
He can also funnel it down to a single image.
Yeah.
That's how he gave me the brief for Moksha Island as well.
What was
And
that brief like?
it was, he made me see an image where, there's an island, and on the top of, there are a couple of images actually. Okay, one image that really struck me was there is a character, he's a neuroscientist in the story, and so a portrait shot of his with, his head open, and that forms an island. So that image really, like, made me visualize, what kind of a flavor, what kind of a mood, what kind of a drama this story beholds.
Right. Sorry for interrupting. Please
No,
go
no,
on.
no. I
Yeah.
think he pretty much got it bang on. So that's definitely something that I really appreciate about Anish, and it's an inspiration, to be able to get to that level of storytelling where you're able to distill it down, because it becomes very important. A lot of times when you work on projects and you collaborate with filmmakers who probably have an idea, they will not fully know it, and because of that, what happens is there's so much rework and this thing that happens. And when you work with an extended team, you need to be able to give them the right kind of information.
The precision.
Yeah, not overdo it also. Like if you feed them way too much information, then it ends up hampering that creativity. So I think that was one thing that really struck out to me, in the time that I've interacted with Anish and worked with him. So I think it's a very fun, entertaining show, whatever that the audiences will see now. And hopefully whatever, the collaboration, the effort, the team, the support from the production house, all of those things will result in the audience having a good time. And I think one of the most interesting parts about the show is that it is binge worthy. Okay, and it has been designed also to be binge worthy. The episodes are not unnecessarily long. There is a raciness to the film, and that was something that I think all of us were very conscious about making sure that the show has.
Superb.
One more thing I would like to add, even though he gives you that liberty, it's not easy to get away with whatever you want. With him, you need to have a lot of common sense and creativity in your argument to make him see what you're trying to say or what you're trying to do. So I just wanted to add that little caveat.
Nice. And one of the challenges with web series is that you have to like shoot a lot per day, right? As opposed to a feature film. The footage that you have to film per day is like, I think, double or triple to a, and cinematographer has to be in like perfect sync with filmmaker. How did you guys like with Gods? I'm sure that must have been
Yeah, it was a
sort of
great
an
experience because
yeah.
for Gods also we had done 2 cameras, and even for this show we were like sure that we would go for 2 cameras. But in this show we had done some good pre-production where we knew this is the island. Okay, what will the characters wear? We kind of dissected the color palette of the place and like made sure what will actors wear so they can stick out more. So we went all that little ground up work. So all of that helped us because we didn't have to go look for those things on the days of the set because that was already in place with the actors. They were very cooperative. All the actors were really cooperative. We wouldn't have been able to do it. But all of those steps helped us. We didn't have to waste so much time out there because the island itself, we are in the island anyway, we are shooting. So any part of the place that we would choose to shoot would already be part of our production design in the part of this thing. And by doing this pre-production that we all had like little, thought process which went into it. In fact, I remember one of the first trekkies we were taking pictures of all the flowers which would like separate out from the island and that would become a costume of one character's
Oh,
look.
nice.
So because these are the natural elements which will pop out from this island. Like, so we kind of devised the color palette based on that. So that kind of thought process went into all, and it didn't make it so hard because we mapped the island once. And like Anish was saying, we would also have discussions end of every day about the next day's sequence. This was a little tricky because it had a lot of star cast and things like that. But again, like I said, all the actors were very cooperative. Actually, they gave into, they were very comfortable. Yeah, we did a lot of
Because
rehearsals.
as part of our blocking methodology, no, the way we block is before we have a preconceived idea of, because every subject demands a certain style of shooting. It can be a mixture of decisions you're making because of the location, the time that you have available, the tremendously huge cast that we are working with. So one of the things that we decided to do was first let's the actors take the scene. Let them just do it the way they want to do it without predefining, don't go here, don't do this. I would just let them just do whatever they wanted to. That rehearsal process would happen 2 3 times, and I think on the second or third rehearsal we would start rolling. And
Nice,
then
nice, nice.
because they're still being unhinged, they're not being conscious, and we kind of got performances like that without them really knowing that we are shooting. We would actually even roll the camera where they would be aware, but there are moments in the film where they didn't know that the camera was being rolled, so we would
Wow.
look for moments like that.
Can I ask Anish, like, how many days did you guys take to finish this?
Oh, I think in entirety it was about 72 days
And it's like what,
staggered.
6 hours
Why I
long?
asked this was like for GOD, we almost had like 400 minutes of content shot in 67 days
Wow.
with not a single day of extra shoot, or like, what do we call those?
In fact, we shot 2 days under the schedule.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no patchworks basically for GOD.
That's
Absolutely
insane
no
actually.
single
Yeah,
shot
yeah.
patchwork. So that was like a wonder. We used to do films like for 100 days. So doing a web series within 67 days is like tremendous.
It is, it is, it
And
is,
nothing
it is.
going wrong at the set or at the location.
Wow.
That is like very good collaboration.
A lot of conversations obviously in the pre-production, where once we understood like this is the vision for this entire island, or this entire show, this is the universe for this show. So from there it starts like, okay, what are the colors that we will probably use? What is the color for danger? What is the color for? So we use that kind of color theory also into our storytelling. So that also helped, like, which was all a little pre-thought. Okay, why don't we go with greens for like a little eerie effect? So things like that we have embedded into the storytelling, and we use a lot of updated gadgets, actually a lot of updated lights that we have used, which were wireless. So we used the best of technology also for our show, which helped us speed the process of shooting. We didn't have to limit ourselves to like big lights and things. Like, we just planned our things better, and we had 2 cameras, and it was an efficient crew and quite mobile. Like I said, it wouldn't have been done without the actors, and our pre-production obviously helped us go in that certain direction.
Superb. You want to add something?
Just make a special mention of the reason these guys are all sitting here is because uh, they bring so much into my collaboration with them. They bring so much to the project, and I want to acknowledge that. When it comes to Srikant, a script, or you might have complicated ideas, you might have transformational sci-fi sequence that needs to happen, zap 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 zap. You can have ideas, but you have to build an architecture to it. You have to build a physical object to it. And he's been instrumental in being able to see what it is that the show needs and try to bring something like that to life. uh, any sci-fi show has larger than life ideas about where it's kind of going, and to make all of that a reality takes a production designer with skill to do that. Now
Nice.
with Naveen, it's all about capturing that moment, that energy, that slice of light, that moment that an actor is unaware. So it's because we've had such a long collaboration. It's very instinctual for him to be like, I just have to look at him like, yeah, just roll it, roll it. I don't have to tell you that we are not going to get this again. So there is that kind of chemistry with Naveen. With Umair and Faiz, I must tell you that I think there is a almost a revisionist kind of a way in which, see, the web series format have we've seen the web series format unfold, episodes unfold. We decided, these guys decided, and they cut it like an absolute fast-paced thriller. So you asked about the episodes, right? Every episode is under 30 minutes, and it's 8 episodes, so it's really zippy. I mean, it's like a roller coaster ride. You're in for the ride, you're in the island, and all that credit of getting that story ticking, taking us into the universe, getting us into that story, making us a part of the adventure. This is the wonderful work of Umair and Faiz, for which I'm indebted to. It is important for me to kind of acknowledge their work, that what goes into kind of making a director's vision come alive, and they are a representation of the best of the best in the business.
Lovely.
So,
Glad to have met you all. I'll watch the show and I'll let you guys know. I mean, ideally, I would have loved to do this post release. We would have had a lot more to discuss, but yeah, please.
Just one small thing I just wanted to mention, uh, that apart from the people sitting here, there is also an incredible thought behind the music, and I wanted to like specifically mention and he's also, I'm sure Anish will add
Yeah.
more to that. The
Shakti.
music, the VFX, and even the way the whole image came together in the grade and everything, and I think it looks spectacular. It looks very fresh compared to what's already out there. So again, I just wanted to end with like urging audiences to try out the show, watch it. It'll definitely be a fun ride.
Super.
And a bit of a shout out
I'm
to
looking-
Shaktikant Karthik, who's in Chennai, our music director. One of those unsung heroes. We unfortunately couldn't get him here in time, but he's the man behind the music for Fida and Gods of Dharmapuri.
Oh.
So he's done his score has really been quite electrifying for this show. I wish he was here to talk, but hopefully we can bring him back
Post release,
at
yeah.
some other time.
Looking forward to
Yeah.
watch the show, guys.
Cool. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Ram.
much for the time.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank
Thanks a
you
lot,
so
Ram.
much, guys.
Thanks, Ram.
Taste the Daily. Taste the Daily.
Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.